And we are live, Nico. I'm always so happy to hear the little simpler jingle here before the live show goes on. It will just make my soul a little bit happier. But how are you, Nico?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. All good. All good. All good. Had a nice, relaxing week. Just recovering from COVID a little bit. So
Oh.
the mysterious virus has finally hit me. But I'm all good. All good. So
Yeah, good.
of course
It's
I
hard.
felt a little bit exhausted, but you know,
Yes. We'll
perfect.
take it slow today. We'll take it slow today. I thought you were gonna say that that you recovered from ice because it's difficult to distinguish whether it's COVID or ice, I suppose, after a week of exertion and exhaustion from an event like that. But I'm happy to see that you are alive and kicking at least, Nico, and good to hear that you're okay.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Yeah, and we managed to do the show last week as well, which was just after ice, right? So
Yes.
just after ice, we had some days, some Easter holidays to just fully recover. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's nice to have the crowd with us here as well. And it seems to have a little bit of a comment here that the video is not working. For us, it's working perfectly here, I suppose. I hope in the live stream that it's okay as well. I'm looking down. For now, it seems to be okay. So perhaps try to reload the browser, and maybe it will work better. It looks good on our end at least. So still, Nico. I mean, again, this week has been really interesting, and I think for you especially, Nico, you have been adamant here to update us on a continuous basis on the movement within the zone, or aka Dazn, that I thought that it was called for a year, DAZN basically, and but it's pronounced the zone, and you were the great teacher of me here, and we've been talking about the zone for the last year,
Yeah.
since the former Entain CEO Shay Segev joined the company in late 2020, and the speculation has been that due to the fact that Dazn had been acquiring kind of gambling executives, that it was just a matter of time before the zone would essentially launch their own sports betting solution. It makes total sense, right? Because they have an activated database of millions of recreational potential, sports bettors essentially that are watching sports. And just to give a little bit of background, I suppose, the Zone is a sports streaming network, so it's kind of like Netflix but sports. They are specifically focusing on boxing, but they also stream other sports as well. And lo and behold, the other day the news finally broke. Dazn is launching a sportsbook, and we can proudly say that our prediction for once was on point. So well done, Nico. And can you give a little bit more nuance to this story? This is, in my opinion, a total potential paradigm shift in the sports betting industry, which can potentially really disrupt the established sports books at the moment. So feel free to give a little bit more nuance here, Nico, to this very,
Yeah,
very
yeah, yeah.
interesting story.
Sure. So first of all, getting a little bit steps back. So the history of the zone. First of all, it was the Perform Group, and the Perform Group itself was a supplier for the sports betting industry. Delivering statistics and video streams. Was a B2B. Pure only, so pretty much like Sport Radar. And then they came up with the idea of, hey, why don't we resell the videos, the live feeds we already have direct to the customer, so D2C. And then they rebranded the Perform Group to Dazn. That's why out of a sudden the Dazn Group has 2,500 employees, which would not have been possible if there would not have been anything in the past already ongoing. And as you already mentioned, of course, there had been rumors going on. We've seen the CEO Shai Sagev joining the zone first of all as a co-CEO. Then he became the only CEO. Now he onboarded. What is his name? Sorry, it's Tico, the former COO of Entain, now the CTO of the zone, Ian Turnbull. has joined Dazn as well. So there were all the paths leading to, okay, there's something going on. And of course, there had been several possible solutions. Either they are directly buying into a sportsbook operator like Kambi for sale or Betway or whoever. But now they came up with a cooperation with Pragmatic Play or Pragmatic. And what's quite interesting, that also on the Pragmatic side, right, we see Ashley Lang,
Yes.
who has been in charge of gaming director for Bet365 for almost 14 years. So as of now, this will be very, very interesting to see what they will come up with. And as you mentioned, they are called the OTT, over the top sports streams provider. I don't know the exact number of customers they have. The last number which I have seen was a number from 2020 when they had 7.6 million subscribers. So if we can just
and
imagine,
these are paying subscribers.
Paying
right?
subscribers.
These are paying subscribers, right? So it's not just a database of 7 million, like half inactive customers. These are 7 million paying subscribers in 2020.
Exactly.
Huge database.
Huge database. So if you can just assume, okay, they just increased it a little bit. So we're talking about roughly 8.5, maybe 9 million paying subscribers. And now they are just exploring a different vertical as well. So of course, there are pros and cons from the commenting point of view. A pro is, okay, they are just exploring a different vertical. They want to offer more solutions, more another subscription model to their paying customers, that they can convert them to become sports bettors, or as you mentioned, come for the stream and stay for the betting. I would rather state it as come for the stream, stay for the stream, and do some betting alongside as well. And that's an interesting fact, how they will, slice and dice their solution and integrate it into the existing one as well. And on the negative side, there are also people coming up with like, okay, Sky Bet, based on the Sky subscription model or the TV channel, they also are quite strong, but they didn't become a tier 1 operator. But they have a different approach, because they are distributed by a set-top box, which is always linked to a TV, and then you are able to literally, see the sports. While for Dazn, they came up with a mobile-first approach. So at least 50% of their customers use it either on a mobile device and or on a desktop PC. So if you just keep in mind, if you're just watching a football match on TV and you are urged to, okay, now you can place a bet, you still need to come up with a different device. While if you're following a stream using your mobile device already, and any kind of advert pops up, like, okay, there's the Canelo versus GGG fight, which they exclusively have, and then after the first 2 rounds, it's like, okay, if you want to place a wager now on Canelo winning the fight after 5 rounds, just press this button, and you can directly press the button. So it's a different approach between Dazn and Sky Sportsbet. But for sure, the numbers which are flying around are just crazy. As of now, they will start, or they are aiming to start just before the new football season in August. And if I'm not mistaken, they will start simultaneously in 4 countries, which is Germany, Spain, UK, and Canada as well. So in Ontario. So it's first of all, it's a quite complex approach to directly start in 4 different geo locations, different languages as well. and there are already rumors going around that they signed up with one of the leading KYC operators of ID Now, which is not yet confirmed, but little birds just told me that this might be pretty value as well. And if we just think about what's the one of the key factors to actually convert their existing customer bases to become sports bettors. So as of now, of course, they are using the application. You can easily subscribe to Dazn. You just, type in your credit card details, your name. You can subscribe with an email address. There you go. But as soon as we are talking about real money gaming, you need to come up with a pretty easy to handle KYC solution, because you need to identify your customers as well. And this will be pretty crucial for the success of Dazn with respect to how many of their existing customers will they be able to actually convert to become sports bettors as well. And as said, will be thrilling to see how many of these 8.5 and 9 million customers they will be finally able to convert to sports bettors as well.
And that is the interesting question here, because it's a totally new way of activating recreational players, essentially. And this is the golden opportunity that organizations like Dazn, or potentially in the future ESPN Plus under Disney, will have. Essentially, the traditional way of placing an online sports bet is you sign up an account on Bet365. When you enter Bet365, you're essentially entering a very advanced spreadsheet. It's not very user-friendly to the normal recreational sports fan. You really have to have an urge to place a bet in order to do so, and that essentially means that the demographic which the online sportsbooks are targeting is a quite limited demographic, right? It's only something like a single-digit percent of the total population have placed an online sports bet ever. But what's happening here is essentially that you go to the recreational sports fans that are already signed up at Dazn, that are already paying a subscription, and you're offering them essentially a very simple, intuitive way to make the game a little bit more exciting by placing a bet on that game with the overlay of the sports betting opportunity, which is essentially is cutting the need to use two services in order to place a bet and to watch the game down to just one service. So instead of using Bet365 and Dazn, so first you place the bet and then you watch the game at a different platform, you have one platform that can do both. And the powerful proposition from a marketing perspective is that Dazn doesn't essentially need to market themselves as a sportsbook. They need to continue to just market themselves as a streaming service, and much easier to generate a database as a sports streaming service that is targeting any sports fan, rather than this much more limited proposition, which is a standalone sportsbook. So I would raise the question now going into the future. Let's say that we assume that ESPN Plus will launch a similar solution. We'll assume that there's other sports streaming networks that will follow suit as well after the probable success of Dazn's experiment here. Then I would wonder, what is the competitive edge for most recreational customers on Bet365? Like, why would a recreational player place bets on Bet365 when it's much more simple, intuitive, and straightforward, and less friction to do so at within the streaming network where you're watching the game then and there? Now, I'm not saying that it will take away all Bet365 customers, and this is obviously going to take time before the product is refined and so on and so forth. And there are power users who prefer the spreadsheets kind of option, and they prefer the many options and the nuance that Bet365 provide. But there is a large amount of recreational players, which is specifically what Dazn is going after, that just doesn't really care about all these thousands of options. They just want to potentially, in the moment, place a very simple bet, 1x2 type of thing, and enjoy the game with as little friction as possible. And that is what Dazn is now offering, and potentially what other sports streaming networks will be offering in the future. So I'm very curious to see how this is going to turn out. We've spoken about this for a year, and now it's finally happening, Nico. I think what Dazn has been communicating is that they are doing a soft launch in August of this year, together with Pragmatic Group. And as you mentioned here, it's Pragmatic Solutions, which is led by Ashley Lang, who is the key person here. They were the first partner to our podcast, so I'm a little bit extra happy for the Pragmatic Solutions guys that they managed to get this contract, because obviously this is a big thing for them as well. And congratulations to Ashley Lang and the guys over at Pragmatic for securing that deal, of course. And another aspect here that I want to ask you about as well, Nico, is Dazn, massive company, multi-billion USD organization. There has been this discussion of vertical integration versus licensed third-party solutions. So the likes of DraftKings, for example, rather than contracting a third-party sportsbook like Kambi, for example, they chose to merge with SB Tech and bring the technology in-house. Right? It's this vertical integration that DraftKings and others in the US market are going for. The Europeans have never really been a fan of vertical integration, but even on the European side, it's happening now, where Kindred have announced that they are building their own sportsbook in-house. But Dazn chose not to build their own sports book technology. They chose to outsource that to a third party, namely Pragmatic here. And I thought that was a really interesting choice, that such a large organization chose not to acquire a sportsbook, but rather to sign a contract with a third party.
Yes, so for sure it's interesting, but we also need to have an eye on the timeline as well, right? So first of all, I'm pretty sure, and I've been speaking about this topic with Ian Turnbull as well during the WGS in December in Barcelona as well. First of all, shout out once again to Ian as well. He was very receptive with respect to what we talked about, but he didn't share that many details, right? He was like, okay, we're looking forward to an interesting way of actually, slicing and dicing our offering to our existing customers so they can directly bet, whatever this means. So I did not see any demo at all as of now how this will actually work. But getting back to your point, so I'm pretty sure they are already dealing with Pragmatic for more than a year, because first of all, you need to integrate it into the existing offerings of Dazn, and this doesn't come out of nowhere, because usually like SAP or whatever solution, you can either use it as it has been designed and coded, but as soon as you just need to add bits and pieces, then the complexity starts. And then, keeping in mind that they want a soft launch already in August, which is just 4 months away, right? This might be a tight timeline as well, and that's why they are specifically, or have been specifically, going for a solution with someone who knows the sports betting industry inside out. So if you ran the gaming department at Bet365 for 14 years, it's not someone who just, had an eye on an influencer back in Dubai and wants to become a big influencer star. So Ashley knows his home turf inside out, and that's why I'm pretty sure that this did the trick why Dazn specifically, started or found the solution with this kind of cooperation. If the both of us, we've been talking about this topic quite often, and of course we all also stated so that they might be buying a smaller operator to actually use this operator offerings and integrate it fully to keep everything in-house and not starting with the corporation. Turns out that probably due to the timeline and the World Cup being hosted this year as well, and that's why they're pretty much soft launching in August, to being finally ready in November and December with their full offerings. And that's so this is my guess why they specifically went for this solution.
Yes, absolutely. It's really interesting to follow. I mean, a lot more updates to come here. And when that soft launch happens, I'll be very interesting to see the UX UI experience here, to see if it's going to be so simple and intuitive as they are planning to make it. That would be the key to the success of this product. It's all about removing friction for the players. That's their competitive advantage, and that's how they will win or lose if they're able to activate that improvement in user experience. Very interesting.
One additional information as well. It's all about, first of all, it's all about streaming rights, and for some events they have exclusive rights. So as said, if you want to see the Canelo fight, you need to have Dazn. Pretty simple. You can't watch it anywhere else. So if you want to watch the fight and then you're able to also place a bet while watching the fight. If you just follow a fight on Bet365 or William Hill 888, you're not able to see footage. Long story short, you're not able to see footage, which you can see on Dazn, which gives them also an advantage as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That is, and that's the fight for the streaming rights. Have just taken another turn here and another twist, and this is again the challenge for the legacy online sportsbooks. That are they financially strong enough in order to acquire these streaming rights and compete against the likes of Dazn, which is very unlikely. I mean, I see it's very difficult for a company like Bet365 or Betway or whoever to launch a streaming service with a subscription service behind it, like what Dazn is. Again, Dazn have built up a subscription basis over years that is now probably close to 10 million paying subscribers. And so they have massive budgets, massive revenue streams already in order to secure these deals. And obviously, operational know-how, competence in-house, and so on and so forth. That just makes it very difficult for the legacy sportsbook to compete and to actually be able to acquire these sports betting, acquire these streaming rights from the sports. So it could be that it could be that the legacy online sportsbooks have lost before they have even started in even trying to compete with acquiring rights to stream certain sports and so on and so forth. And again, this is the start of a potential new paradigm shift within the online sportsbooks, and Dazn is taking the lead. But I expect the likes of ESPN, especially ESPN Plus, to follow suit. They also have incredible sports betting streaming rights over in the US, of course. And if they decide to just flip the switch and offer sports betting within the streaming platform, the game is over. It's game over. There's no recovering from that, I think. And so will they do it? Let's see. There's some indications they are hiring. They are hiring.
Yeah. They are hiring. They are hiring.
Yes.
They are hiring.
Yes.
So
but they are in no panic.
Yeah.
They are in no panic. They have already won the war to acquire the rights for the biggest streaming sports in the United States. So they can take the time they need to take in order to hire the right people and develop the best product, and it's game over from there.
Yeah. Exactly. I wouldn't consider it as being game over. because there are still a lot of streaming rights which they don't hold exclusive rights on it, right? But for sure, as you mentioned, it's a paradigm shift, right? Because the players who are now entering this market, they have pockets so deep which we have never seen before, before. Even if we just think about market capitalization of DraftKings, used to be around 27, 36 billion dollars, now down to $7 billion. Maybe just another kinky guess from my end, or as Martin Licker would say, if I might be a little bit cheesy now, maybe Disney or ESPN, they are eyeing on just buying DraftKings.
Yes.
Right. So if the market capitalization goes down to $5.5, $6 billion, they're like, okay, we don't develop it in-house. We just buy the likes of DraftKings, all cash transactions, because then we don't need to deal with any earn-out models. Just shift over the money. Then it's our vertical, and we start integrating this into our ESPN Plus platform.
Speaking about DraftKings market caps, let's see if we can do some magic here. Okay, Nico? That's 56. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Look at that.
Oh my gosh.
This is basically, for those of you guys who are watching, this is the movement over the last 2 years of the DraftKings share price. So basically, since the start of COVID. And as we can see here, DraftKings yesterday hit a 2-year low on the stock market. After, as you mentioned here, at the peak, let's see here, at the peak in 2021, they had a market capitalization of pretty much 30 billion USD, which is now down to 6.3 billion USD. So it means that their company is kind of valued on the stock market to 6 billion USD, which is still a lot. 6 billion. It's not a low number, let's say, but it's far shy of the around 30 billion USD that they had about a year ago. So they have essentially lost 80% of the share value on the stock market till today. This is a lot due to macroeconomic factors. It's important to remember. DraftKings have followed the strategy. They have communicated the strategy, and they have stayed true to the strategy. In fact, as Robin Reed points out very clearly, he is very impressed by the strides that DraftKings are making in order to retain the players within DraftKings specifically. They are showing very impressive numbers. But still, the shareholders are currently turning the back against the DraftKings. And it's also interesting to point out here that even though the very colorful kind of CEO of DraftKings have been threatening the shareholders in order to hold on to the shares here, some veiled threats. He mentioned that this would be the biggest mistake of their life to sell the shares at this stage, which can potentially be true. Market capitalization 6 billion. It's very low. They are following the strategy. They are doing well, and so on and so forth. So could potentially be a good time to buy DraftKings at the moment. Who knows? But just wanted to point out here as well, as you mentioned, $6.3 billion dollar market capitalization is the weaker they get, the more difficult for a cash-hungry company it becomes to keep their organization afloat. They have cash, I think, for another year operation or something along those lines. And after that, they will need to acquire more cash in order to stay afloat, or they will need to cut marketing spend and force themselves into an EBITDA positive operation. But that might lead to them losing market share essentially during that time as well. But it is interesting. DraftKings is on a 2-year low since pre-pandemic, pretty much on the level where they IPO'd together with the SPAC here 2 years ago. And it's been a wild ride for the shareholders here, and every day on the stock market, this is a speculative asset. So the swings are wild in this share price. It's not the share price is not based on on current EBITDA levels, and it's not really easy to predict the future growth in DraftKings, and therefore the share price is swinging wildly here from up and down every day. So yesterday they lost 7.7% on the market, seemingly without any news, other than in general on a macroeconomic level, the financial climate is very uncertain right now. And the expectation is further inflation. The expectation is increased interest rates, and this basically spooks the investors away from speculative assets into more secure assets like gold, for example, and more kind of stabilized companies with a good and certain future. Apple is another good example of a stable asset as well that is not doing too horribly at the moment. So yeah, those are just some nuances on DraftKings as well. There, just wanted to add that, Nico, while you were on the topic of DraftKings. Yeah.
Yeah, and as you already mentioned, so as of now, the overall stock market is in full swing. Just remember, and if you can look this up as well, how the price for the stocks of Netflix has gone down a little bit.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and we need to, and as you mentioned, as of now, it doesn't reflect any kind of EBITDAs, any multiples. Even if Netflix, they hold 250 million subscribers, paying subscribers, 250 million, and they lost around 700,000 subscribers from Russia, which does not even reflect 1%. Doesn't even reflect 1%. So even if the worst nightmare comes into reality and they might lose 2 million customers for whatever reason, it's not 1%. It's not even 1%. And the stock has gone down by more than 15%, I guess.
Oh, much more. Here you see the 5-year movement of the stock market of Netflix. And the peak happened just on in end of October of last year. And since then, in this half a year, they lost 70% of market cap. Since the news broke the other day of their quarterly report here, as you mentioned, where it was the first quarterly report in Netflix history when their subscriber base decreased, they lost 40% and in market cap. 40% they lost. And basically Netflix is increasing their prices. So they are now at something like, in the US, they are like a $20 subscription now, whereas the competition is around $10. And this is causing, there's like the golden rule of subscriptions, a subscription basis is don't make people remember there is a subscription basis, and don't make them question their subscription. Because, our own habits, I have my Netflix account, I have some other subscriptions. I don't really think about it. And if I really would scrutinize my subscription, I'd probably cancel half of them. But it's low amount of money, it doesn't really bother me. And so they just kind of keep ticking on in the background. But Netflix is giving every single user a reason to question their subscription by increasing the prices, and aggressively at that as well. And so this is the problem for Netflix, is that they have saturated their markets. They were growing from market to market. They reached the kind of the top line growth within those markets, and you come to a point where the market is saturated globally, and all the markets where they are in, there are no new markets to launch in. And so then shareholders, they want to have they want more revenue, they want increased revenue. What do? You increase the prices. It's as a result of the pressure from the shareholders. And you can see the steady decline here. And Netflix is now trading at a 4-year low. Okay, at a 4-year low they are at the moment. So they have a lower market capitalization than what they had 4 years ago at the moment. And that is, Netflix had a similar boost in numbers from COVID, like the iGaming industry had as well. But dear Netflix, the honeymoon is over. as can be as is evident here when you look at the numbers. They're still 100 billion USD company, so they are still making a good, healthy profit. And maybe the shareholders are exaggerating in the loss that they are making here, but nonetheless, the roof has been hit. They have reached the perfect market, similarly to the cell phone market. With Apple is operating within a perfect market where there is no new market share to grab. There is no new markets. It is essentially people changing phones every 3 years, and that is the business that you're fighting for, essentially. Not new business. It's a reoccurring business, essentially. And Netflix has seemingly hit the same type of ceiling here, where we can't expect exponential growth anymore, but rather fighting for the subscriber base to stay seemingly intact with slow growth each year. And the shareholders have realized that now, and the market capitalization have come down. A little bit of a sidetrack, I suppose, here, Nico, but interesting, right?
All good.
Interesting.
Perfect. And
yeah, let me
go
just
ahead.
finish here. The reason why I am passionate about this subject is because I am one of the stupid people who bought shares in Netflix a couple of months ago, because I thought that if we are hitting a recession, the last thing people will do is to cancel the Netflix subscription. It's like, who would cancel the Netflix subscription? I mean, it's like that. Like you cut down on food before you cancel the Netflix subscription, I thought, but nonetheless, I am looking at these numbers and I'm crying a little bit internally, but I'll be fine anyway. And what Robert is mentioning here, I'd give Netflix a buy rating just because of the Cobra Kai. And yes, I certainly hope Cobra Kai will lift Netflix back up to former glory here, Robert. I hope so. I hope for the best. Oh my God.
But one thing is for sure, Hollywood loves a comeback. Hollywood loves a comeback. And if there's any company representing Hollywood as of now, it is Netflix. So, Pierre, fingers crossed, right? There will be a comeback with the stock market as
This is
well.
why no one should ever listen to me and anything that we say here, okay?
Or doing the opposite. If you're buying, I'm going short. It's also good.
Yes, exactly. That is reverse investment advice, I suppose. That's it, Nico.
But as a cliffhanger, because you pointed out one essential thing. Investors pretty much looking for new markets and new market opportunities. As of now, we have one new market. If you'd like to zoom in on into Ontario as well, because this is where the heavyweights actually literally face each other toe to toe in an open market. And I'm pretty sure you just prepared something for Ontario as well, because Morgan Stanley, they zoomed in a little bit into the app downloads as well.
Absolutely. So The Score, which is a Toronto-based media house, is leading the app downloads chart at the moment, the leaderboard. And we're going to take a look at this because this is very interesting. As a background to this story, okay, Ontario, the Canadian province, launched legal iGaming on sports betting a couple of weeks ago. And we are just excited like children to understand who are going to be the winners in this market, and see, especially because there has been a very prevalent gray market in Canada previously, with the traditional European brands that have been established foothold in the Canadian market. And so the question is, will the North American brands win the market, or will the traditional European brands win the market? And we're going to bring up a chart here. Okay, there we go. This is the Ontario app download market share, since the market opened. And as we can see here, The Score, the local Toronto, Canada-based media brand, are leading the effort so far in total app downloads. So they have nearly 50% of all downloads so far on the App Store and the Android Store to the market has been to this specific app. Number 2 is Bet365, and you and me, Nico, we talked about this the other week, like who will be the winner in the market, and I think so far we all agree that Bet365 is the brand that we think will be the leader of market share here, as the first numbers will be reported from the Ontario market sooner or later. So they are number 2 in terms of app downloads at 35%, and then there is essentially a host of brands that are fighting for the last 15% essentially. So there's the Score and Bet365 by far the leaders here, and then you have Betway at 5%. And interestingly enough, with Betway is that they reported numbers for the first time last week, because they have just gone public on the public market through a SPAC merger, right? And what came out of that report is that let's see if we get this right. 45% of the entire group revenue in Betway comes from the North American market, and we can assume that pretty much all of that revenue is Canada. Okay, so 45% of the entire Betway group revenue comes from Canada, and I would assume that Betway are not super happy about the change of the status quo in Canada. Now they have a lot more stiffer competition in this market, which is prevalent here in this very graph. And 5% of app downloads potentially is a little bit worrying for Betway, and it will be interesting to see when the Q2 numbers specifically will be released here when after the Canadian market is live, and we'll see how Betway is performing in that market. But it's definitely something to keep an eye on, is the numbers from Betway. Other than that, we see a host of different companies: BetMGM at 3%, Caesars 2%, RSI 3%, 888 1, and Leo Vegas is 1% as well, which is interesting as well to have a look at. So saying this, Morgan Stanley, if we look at the Score specifically, Morgan Stanley is estimating that the Score will reach an expected 10% market share. So it's interesting to point out here as well that Morgan Stanley aren't thinking that the Score will reach a 50% market share because they have 50% app downloads. It's a very great start for the Score, but they are expecting a 10% market share for the Score. So it's just something that's something to look out for. And Robert points out something really interesting here, which is that reading from Feda, the one of the co-founders of Cafe Rocks, that the Score does not have a web app, only a download app, and thus making these numbers a bit skewed. And that's really interesting insight here from Robert as well. I didn't know that for sure, and obviously that of course is something that skews the numbers somewhat, and also that's why it's important to point out that Morgan Stanley is not expecting the market share to be 50% just because the app downloads are 50%. Also interesting to point out, Nico, before I leave it over to you here for some nuance, is that the first week of the launch of Ontario, the Score reached 70% market share on the app download specifically. And now if we look at last week, it is Bet365 that have reached 50% market share. So essentially, the curve for the Score in terms of app downloads market share is going down, whereas the curve for Bet365 is going up. Okay, so that's also something to be aware of. What do you make of all of this, Nico?
So first of all, the numbers just for Bet365, and they also host a web page as well. So besides offering an app download as well, they still offer the web page. So the numbers for Bet365, they are a little bit delusive for one reason and one fact, because I was speaking during LAC with one from the Bet365 guys, and he literally showed me, first of all, he was like, hey, Nico, you know, we've been active in Ontario for quite a while, right? But they literally needed to shut down the existing app, offering a new app, and then they literally forced all their existing customers to download and sign up for the new app. So if you, or if anyone has the pleasure to actually have a look at the reviews for Bet365 in the Canadian market, average rating is 1.2 stars, which is pretty bad. And if you just take a look at the reviews itself or themselves, you will see comments like, yeah, I have been forced to download the new application sucks, I couldn't reuse my bonuses, etc. So that's why the numbers for Bet365 are a little bit delusive, as they converted or forced their existing customers to actually actively download the new application. And of course, the existing customers who just wanted to, enter their own accounts or use their own accounts, they were forced to download this new application. So that's why it is a little bit delusive just for Bet365. I don't know how this actually works for the score, but as Fetcher pointed out during his comment on LinkedIn, and Robert is referring to it, the score, they don't offer a web page. So if you want to enter your own account, you're literally forced to also download the latest application. So that's why even the numbers of Leo Vegas, Betway, and as you just showed within the nice diagram you had. So that's why it will be very interesting to see how this actual numbers will work out within a time span of 1 month from now on, when all the already existing customers already downloaded their new application to enter their existing account, for the companies who have been active in the market already before the market became from gray into white.
Very interesting, Nico. We'll follow up on this as well, and these are preliminary numbers, and really interesting to see when the actual numbers will be reported from Ontario, who's going to win the market. Nico, do you mind if we jump into the NFT metaverse space for a little bit? And I think those who are not fans of the metaverse will enjoy this topic, okay?
First of all,
yes.
we are speaking about the metaverse.
Yes, the metaverse. Thank you. Thanks for building up the expectations. I like it. So there's a casinoverse. You can say a metaverse, casinoverse, that has been hit with a cease and desist in Texas. It's the Texas State Securities Board that have sent an urgent cease and desist to an NFT project, basically, which is essentially a iGaming company which is raising money through an NFT collection drop in order to build one of the biggest casinos in two of the biggest metaverses, which is the Sandbox and the Decentraland. So it's called Gamblers NFTs. Gamblers NFTs, that's the name of the project. And it's called like Sands Vegas or something like that. The company is behind it. Can't remember. I don't have the tab open anymore, so I can't see it. But essentially, this is really interesting as well, because what's happening in the NFT space is there is a lot of projects that are launching very similarly to how an IPO would look like, a traditional IPO, right? So when you launch a company on the public markets, you do so in order to raise money into the company. So on the public markets, anyone can invest into the company. You raise funds, and you use that funds to grow the organization. And what Gamblers NFTs and many other NFT projects are doing is essentially the same principle, but calling it an NFT collection. So what they have done is essentially they have launched this like collection of about 10,000 NFTs, and they are selling them at something like $1,000 per NFT. And what they are saying is that once they launch the casino in the Decentraland and in the Sandbox, 50% of the revenue will go back to the token holders. So these 10,000 NFT holders will receive 50% of the revenue. So this is essentially the same thing as selling shares. It is the same principle. You buy the NFT and you get a stake in the revenue. And so there's been this debate within the NFT space whether to classify NFTs as securities or as commodities. And I was thinking, sometimes these sessions are good, Nico, because I get to learn things, you get to learn things, and the audience gets to learn things. So then we ask the question: what is a security and what is a commodity? And can we learn something from why there is this debate in the NFT space, how to classify the NFT assets? And so let's start by looking at securities. So for those of you guys who are watching, here is a nice little infographic of what a security is. So securities are basically financial instruments. So to put it short, to put it very simple, securities are investments. So if you own shares on the stock market, these are securities. If you own bonds, these are securities. ETFs, derivatives, hedge funds, so on and so forth. If you invest in a company, these are securities. And so you basically own an asset that can go up and down. It's a security. It's trading with stocks essentially. And then let's move over quickly to what is a commodity. So a commodity is a tangible good that can be bought and sold or exchanged for products or similar value. Okay, so for example, if you buy gold or corn or food or whatnot, then this would be classified as commodities essentially. And so a commodity can be produced and or sold for many different by many different companies or manufacturers, right? So for example, many different companies can own corn and they can sell it, right? And it has a similar value. And there's the thing of fungibility as well, which is a uniform in quantity between the companies that produce and sell it, and so and quality. So essentially, corn is a commodity because corn is the same regardless of which company that sells it. It's a commodity in that respect. Okay, so the debate is whether NFTs are commodities, which are kind of these stable assets, let's say, or if it's a security, which is more like investment. And so if we look at these gambler NFT collections, it clearly is a security. And why are we raising this? Yes, because the gambler NFTs team have been claiming that their NFT collections are not securities. They are claiming that they are commodities. And why are they doing that? Well, because the tax laws are very different if you own commodities or if you own securities. And so holding a commodity, it's not a taxable event in the same way as holding a securities. And that's why the Texas State Securities Board have now stepped in to say that to give this cease and desist and to basically close down this gamblers NFT project before it has basically hit the ground. So yeah, those are there's some interesting nuance here as well, Nico. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, for sure, it makes sense. And as you mentioned, it all comes down to taxation, right? It all comes down to taxation, and I don't know, to be honest, I don't know the exact difference if or how a security is taxed compared to how a commodity is taxed. But for sure, there are some big numbers behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so yeah, this is the NFT metaverse space is unregulated. There's a lot of decisions to be taken. No one really knows regulatory wise, especially on these like more complex in-depth NFT drops that have basically just existed for a year, how to classify them, how to tax them, and so on and so forth. And so it remains to be seen which direction the NFTs and especially these type of drops will take. But here we see some actual action against this kind of upcoming casinoverse, which is very similar. And for those of you guys who remember, a couple of years ago, there was this trend of ICOs, which is very similar to what we're seeing in this project, where basically you started your own kind of cryptocurrency that was backed by a company So again, similar to how a company would list themselves on the public markets. They raised a bunch of money into the token, and the investors were hoping that the value of these tokens would increase. That's how Ethereum was born, for example. That's how Sandbox was born, and other popular products. But 90% of all the ICOs turned out to be scams, and that's why we saw the crypto winter when the crypto crashed for a couple of years. And now, seemingly, we are seeing the same pattern emerge, where 90% of these NFT collections are cash grabs, and they basically ruin a lot of these speculative investors, essentially. So yeah, something to keep an eye on as well. So be careful out there, people, when you're considering to buy and sell NFTs. It's not as straightforward, get rich as it may look when you browse your Twitter feed and you see what others have done. A lot of scams out there, so research and be careful.
Exactly, and just keep in mind that if I'm not mistaken, the NFT of the first ever Twitter tweet has been sold by or to someone for roughly 3.8, roughly $4 million.
Yeah, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that guy wanted to resell this NFT, valuing $38 million, and the highest bid has been $250. So
be careful out there.
Yeah, exactly. Be careful about
Be careful.
that. Just be careful.
Yes, exactly. Right, Nico, we are coming up on the hour here, and so time to round off a little bit here. It was a lot of interesting stories we didn't have time to go through today. For example, Las Vegas Sands, the biggest gambling company in the world, have now decided to make their first investment into the online gambling, online sports betting space by investing in US Integrity, which is an interesting story here. We will expect to see a lot more announcements of investment from Las Vegas Sands in the coming months. There was a lot of buzz around this during ICE, and speculation of which will be next here as well. So keep an eye out for Las Vegas Sands. They are not going to go in just one entity. They are looking to invest into multiple entities here as well, with smaller, medium, and large investments. So that's also something to keep an eye on. But yeah, exactly. Nico, what do you say? Shall we head down to the beach? I mean, now the weather is actually to the point where we can do that.
Yeah. That's good. So heading down to the beach, having a nice smoothie with a lot of spinach. Right, so spinach is always good. Spinach is always good. Keeps your body in shape a little bit, and looking forward to it. And as you just mentioned, Las Vegas Sands, we have been waiting for their first move for quite a long time, and they actually set up a fund, right? And as you mentioned, they want to invest into the supplier space. So not the operator space, but the supplier space. And US Integrity, first of all, it's not a household name, to be honest. US Integrity is not a household name, but they are supplying services to operators with, first of all, to leagues and to operators. And they give out warnings as soon as movements on the betting markets shift into the wrong direction. So this just indicates that probably Las Vegas Sands wants to become wants to invest into the evolutions of the gaming space rather than into the operators themselves. So, as mentioned, quite interesting, and we will for sure see further moves as they already announced this. We set up a fund. A bond in July 2021, and this is just their first move. So I'm pretty sure they're not, sleeping, but they are specifically eyeing for chances to actually enter the market, and this seems to be their first move, and we will just see further moves as well. But as said, don't want to postpone our going to the beach session because I'm just looking forward to it, to just chill out a little bit in the Las Vegas Sands beach.
That sounds like a great place to go. Nico, it's been an absolute pleasure. Like always, great to see you every week here. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you at the beach.
Okay, see ya. Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.